A fiddler on the roof. Sounds crazy, no?
No.
But in our little village of Port Charles, a lot of crazy things have been happening. Stay tuned for more anniversary fun and a review of this week. Hey, everybody. Yes, I have my Fiddler on the Roof hat on today. I'm here with Mama Snark, and we had so much fun last week celebrating our 12th Snarkiversary. We're going to continue that. We'll eventually get to what happened this week, but we're going to start off with more Snarkiversary fun. Last week, we talked about characters we missed, actors we missed. I mean, there's a whole slew of people. And I thought, of course, after the podcast, I thought of, like 5 more people.
Oh, totally. When we get on here, I make notes. He doesn't make notes, and I don't even look at the notes, so we forget completely what we're going to say and what we're going to talk about.
And things I think to talk about, I think of at the weirdest time. So this is the stream of consciousness.
There you go.
General Hospital Snark podcast. Snarkcast.
The James Joyce Snarkcast.
Well, we'll just keep lengthening the name. But one of the characters I really missed, and the actress too. I forget the actress's name because, of course, we're doing this now. But she played O'Reilly. She was Scorpio's right-hand woman during the whole Ice Princess.
Oh, you're really going back.
She eventually got killed off, and of course the actress is no longer with us. I think I could be wrong, but it's popping into my head. It's the Billy Hayes, the same actress who played Witchy Poo in HR Pufnstuf, played O'Reilly, and she was fantastic. Yeah, so I figured I'd give a shout out to her. I mean, there's many others, actors and characters I miss, but who knows? Maybe Frank will finally get around to finding them in the parking lot.
I think for me that going through those clips after the fact when I was editing last week's, seeing OG Drew, Billy, it just touched my heart. Oh my gosh, he was so good. We didn't appreciate what we had until it was gone.
Son of a bitch. Pretended to treat my kid so you could watch me.
I didn't pretend to treat Jake. I've done everything in my power to help him.
Okay, once again, we are off track. Dr. Maddox, did your backer tell you which man you were to keep under surveillance?
Yes.
So you know which of these men is Andrew Kane and which is Jason Ward?
Yes.
Then tell them. They have the right to know.
Wow, that was really tender. And seeing the scenes with Franco too, and how much humor he brought to everything. Even in the most serious moments, there was a mischievousness about Franco that I really, really miss.
And I completely forgot until watching it last night, the bond that Franco and Drew had, which was, again, if you want to redeem Drew, I don't know if I want that, but
not at this point, yeah.
If the powers that be wanted to redeem Drew, you would find a way to, as we say now on the internet, unalive or undead Franco, and
unalive is the deadness. Yeah. And re-alive,
okay.
AKA resurrect.
Resurrect. I would resurrect Franco. That was all a mistake. There's no mystery. He was shot, he was wounded, he recovered, he's back, and then explore that relationship. But I have a feeling, much like the patient number 6 plotline we talked about last week, that they're not interested in that. It's too complicated. They kept stumbling over themselves with those plot lines, so they don't want to go back and revisit it. It's too complicated. They don't even know what's going on.
No, and again, as we have said many times, all this happened in the year of the writer shuffle. We remember we had all head writers, no head writers, more head writers, different head writers, old writers, new writers. I mean, it was nuts, and nobody knew what the heck was going on. I still regret losing Patrick Mulcahy because I feel that he was going in a really interesting direction that was not Carly Sunny centric, and we lost that. And
I also feel like he shouldn't have had a co-head writer. They upgraded Elizabeth Corte to co-head writer. He didn't need a co-head writer. I'm not a big fan. Let's put it this way, folks. If you don't know me by now, I'm not a big fan of co-head writers because each head writer is going to have their own vision of what the show is, and everything is going to end up being a compromise of that. You know, gone are those days where you had a head writer who was left alone to create a long-term story, to, you know, to write interesting characters. You know, there's too many people involved
I think that's
every process of daytime.
I think that's a really, really good point. Because if you think about some of the big primetime shows, let's talk about The Residents right now. Shonda Rhimes. Now, Shonda Rhimes is the producer, but you know she has her fingers in that because she has standards, she has things she wants to do in her own special spin. But there was only one writer. One. Now, there may have been additional writers that help do the episodes and this kind of thing, but the whole story, the whole plot. Now, granted, we're talking about an 8-week series, whole different ball game than when you're talking about 62 years. Just saying. So, but still, I agree with you. It's the old too many cooks in the kitchen. It just gets crazy. Yeah.
And if you read, you know, like I read the Agnes Nixon book, I've read the book, or the Erna Phillips book, and you read anything about the old days in the soaps, the head writer was king or queen in the case, and they decided the stories. You know, now it's like everything's got to be approved by the executive producer, which is Frank. And then not only does he have to approve it, the network has to approve it. And sometimes the things they want on screen are not what the fans want. And unfortunately, they've screwed up many a plot line on many a show. So I always say, even though we're a little harsh sometimes, I always say, be kind to the head writers of these shows because they got so many balls in the air that they have to juggle. You know, the network, the executive producer, the actors, this, that, the other thing.
The budget
to write the show.
The budget, which is Frank's hallmark, as we've said. The reason they love Frank is because he brings things in under budget, which is why we didn't get a million flashbacks in the 62nd episode. Notice that the flashbacks we got were of currently on contract people, so they didn't have to pay for them.
Well, actually, they do.
Oh, they do?
Oh,
I'm
yes,
wrong.
yes.
I'm wrong.
Even if you are I have to know all this stuff because, you know, I write for television.
Yeah.
Even if you are a, you know, contract character on a soap, you get paid extra for, now I don't know what the percentage is. It could be, and I'll research this, I'll let you know. It could be less than what you would have to pay an actor no longer on the show. I'm going to research that and let everybody know. But they still get paid. But I guess they figured if they're going to show flashbacks, let's keep it to the current cast. But I agree with you 100%. You said this week on the page, you don't have to celebrate every year.
Oh my
They never
God.
used to.
I don't celebrate every year.
No.
When you get to be our age, every year is stupid.
But yeah, 65th, maybe, but that's not really a big anniversary. Hey, my own college only celebrates 25 and 50 years. That's it. If you're having a milestone, like a couple of years ago, I had a 30th college reunion with everybody, and we thought there was going to be a big event for us on campus, and we got there, we're like, nothing. It's like you don't have to celebrate every year.
Especially if you don't have a reason for it. What I'm saying is, as everyone noticed, that episode was it was like a separate universe had been set down in the middle.
Wow.
It's like you're in the middle of dinner and all of a sudden you have to get up and you have to go down the street. It has nothing to do with what you were doing. It's just this weird kind of plop in the middle of things, which really, I mean, considering Monday, now David doesn't know this because he hasn't seen these weeks. Monday, we found out that Rick is like almost dead, maybe brain dead, could be dying. We don't know, right? And then we have Tuesday, the anniversary, with all this random stuff. I'm sorry, people standing in front of the wall of dead people and talking about them is not good enough. We need the flashbacks.
We need flashbacks. Yeah.
And then Wednesday and Thursday, because we haven't seen today's show Friday, because we record Friday morning, were all about the other people that don't have anything to do with Rick and Liz. They were about Carly and Jack. And oh my gosh, yesterday's episode, everyone and their grandmother was in it, except Rick and Liz. So I don't know.
The timeline then is off because it's like, if all these other things are happening in Port Charles, why aren't they hearing about Rick and Liz in the hospital?
Right.
You know, people complain a lot about Days of Our Lives because they have a tendency to like cliffhanger, then they go to other plots for like 2 days, then they come back. But if you watch very carefully Days or any soap, look at it as this is the same day. So they're showing those next 2 episodes, they're showing stuff that's going on at the same time in other parts of town. And then by the time they get back to whatever the big cliffhanger was or whoever was in peril, then it's like people are finding out about it in real time. They're not real good about that on General Hospital.
Yeah, it's like we have the A team and we have the B team, and the B team has no idea what the A team is doing, and the A team, it's like it would be interesting to me after an episode like yesterday where we had Portia, we had Brad, we had Lucas, we had Marco, we had Sidwell, we had Natalia, all the people, right? So that's one team. And then the other team is the Alexis and Rick and Elizabeth and Lucky and Christina and Molly and Cody. And it's like, oh my gosh, can you tell we might have a cast that's a little bit top heavy? If you can't cover every major storyline in 1 week, you got too much going on.
And again, since we're celebrating our anniversary, if you look at the past at General Hospital, when the show centered around the hospital, it was much easier to get, A team and B team in the same room because people would come in and out of the hospital all day long. I mean, I remember some of the classic GH episodes where it's like every minute the elevator doors are opening and somebody's coming out. Yeah. And somebody has a quick conversation and then they go over here and then somebody else comes out and then somebody comes together. And then, it's just, it's not that hard to do, but apparently it is.
Apparently it is.
So we're going to play a little game.
Oh, goody.
I'm going to mention the decade and you're going to tell me what were your favorite stories.
Oh now, my gosh, you are really have more faith in my brain than I do. Okay, let's try it.
And again, I really wasn't watching it in the 60s. I'll freely admit. But what I do remember from the 60s, probably catching up in the 70s and reading about it, and of course, in recent years, watching YouTube clips, was the love story of Audrey and Steve. Because they weren't each other. They were not each other's first love because she came to the hospital, I think, a year into the show, and the struggles they had and the things that kept them apart. And Audrey's sister was head nurse Lucille March.
Oh, I remember Lucille.
Mm-hmm. So I remember that. Oh yeah, she was the epiphany of her day.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit snarky. She was a little bit snarky, wasn't she?
Oh yeah. Oh no, she was a lot snarky.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, I love.
Hey, I was 7. I don't know.
And I sort of remember. And I remember Lee Baldwin. And I remember young Scotty when he was a kid. And I remember Jesse that never seemed to do much. But the one thing Jesse was involved with, Phil Brewer, who was not an evil guy, but a bad guy. He wasn't really, he was having affairs. He was doing this. And there was a murder trial, which I have recently found on YouTube, where Jesse, was on trial for his murder. That's all I remember from the 60s. What about you? Anything?
Well, Jessie is the only one of that era that I met in real life. I got to do a drama production with her.
Do tell.
So my stepmom, wicked stepmother, and her best friend wrote for soaps. She was a big soap writer. And they got this scathingly brilliant idea that they could combine soap opera writing with malls and fashion. So they wrote a soap opera spoof called The Worn and the Reckless. And it took, we had it in a mall, and there were we had episodes. It was like 3 weeks in a row, and the place would be packed. And she cast me as Mrs. O.R. Dervey, the woman who would serve things to people. I didn't have to do anything except be
I
stupid.
get it, Mrs. O.
But this was shortly after she had appeared on General Hospital. And so she knew Jessie. She knew Emily McLaughlin.
Right.
And so she calls up Emily and she goes, we're doing this stupid soap opera in the mall. Would you like to be part of it? And she said, you bet. So she would do this huge cameo the mall was packed. People, we had all kinds of scenes. I mean, there was a whole story. It took like 40 minutes to do. Yeah.
PH was number one then, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ending to number one. Yeah. That's sort
So
of
that would have been
we
probably.
call up actors and so
When
want to be on our Snark show?
I'm
Probably
trying to.
79, 80.
Yeah,
Anymore?
about that time. Yeah, it would be my guess.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So that's your 60s. Okay, 70s was when I really started to watch General Hospital, and two big standouts. Although I thought 70s General Hospital was excellent, it's been hard to top. The 80s just went balls to the wall.
I love the 80s. That was.
But the 70s was all about the long-suffering Dr. Leslie Weber. She was the big put upon heroine. Everything that could happen happened to her.
Was she the Sasha of the day?
She was the Sasha of the day, except she was a doctor. She wasn't preparing meals. But I mean, everything from her daughter was lost and adopted by someone, and then she found Laura, to the David Hamilton murder, to all the back and forth with Rick and Monica and Leslie and Alan. She was the center of that show, and I adored her. She was my go-to. I had a friend who was also a big General Hospital fan, told me one time, he was a latchkey kid. So he said, Leslie Weber is my mom because she's the person I come home to every day at 3:00. My mom, my real mom's not home. Leslie Weber was my mom growing up, which, she was a very good, capable human being, but she was just this long-suffering heroine. And the other big thing of the 70s, which is very much forgotten, Gil Gerard was an actor who was very popular on The Doctors, and somehow General Hospital snagged him in the role of Dr. Mark Dante. Dr. Mark Dante was married to a crazy woman, Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen had a chauffeur that she, of course, confided her evil plans to, sort of like early Nina and, oh God, the one I was complaining about, they never finished her story, Rosalie, when Rosalie was
Oh,
posing
yeah,
as
Rosalie.
Mary.
I remember Rosalie.
That was kind of that kind of relationship. And Dr. Mark Dante fell in love with torch singer Terry Weber. Yes, the sister of Rick and Jeff, who was on for about 2-3 years. But I adored them. Gil Gerard was one of those actors, though, he mumbled his lines. So it was always like, what did he say? What? I didn't see the appeal. But anyway, Terry fell in love with him. Mary Ellen, of course, was crazy and jealous. So she had her chauffeur tamper with the brakes on Terry's car. Terry crashed, got amnesia. And so for months, it was just this back and forth and back and forth. And then I actually have this on audio tape. And then Terry remembered everything and confronted Mary Ellen. And of course, Mary Ellen went off the rails. And, I forgot a lot of what happened after that, but they all soon kind of packed up and left town. But those are my two big 70s plot lines. Now, were you watching it in the 70s?
I was not watching it. 70s was my college age years. So I was busy doing college-y things. And let's see, I graduated from high school in 73. When were Luke and Laura? Weren't they in the late 70s?
They were 79, 80, 81.
Okay. So I graduated from high school in 73 and was busy doing college-y things. But then my grandmother was the big General Hospital person. And so we would talk about it, and I may have turned it on now and then, but I was working and things so I was busy. And this was pre-VCR for the younger people on the podcast.
I used to have my mom, while I was in school, audio tape the episode.
We did that too, but not this time. But so I remember Luke and Laura, but I didn't really get into General Hospital until the early WSB days with Anna and Rob.
The 80s. So your favorite plot lines in the 80s. I know you like the capers.
Oh, I loved the capers. I loved them. And what were your favorite storylines in the 80s?
Well, in the 80s, if you remember the capers in the 80s, they didn't just go on for like a week or two.
Oh, no, they'd be
went
gone for
on
months.
for
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
And because the writers knew the ending, they made sense along the way. I remember when they were trying to figure out, the left-handed boy, what does that mean? What does that mean? And then it turned out it was a statue.
But they knew that from the beginning when they started writing it. What a concept. No, it's the old thing of begin with the end in mind.
Right. And it doesn't have to be a mystery. It just any story. Know where you're going.
What was it that somebody said? I don't know. Somebody on the page was saying something about the fact, do they even know who bombed Sonny's apartment? No, they don't. They have no idea. They thought it might be Sidwell, and then they changed their mind. And they thought it might be.
And then they said no, because we're trying to make Sidwell a long-term character by hooking him up to the homophobe. Yeah. No, 80s for me, yes. I remember a lot of the capers. I really liked Frisco and Felicia. Their whole
and the Aztec princess.
Which again, they've long forgotten. Do you remember? Oh God, Terry and another Terry. It was Terry, Kevin, and Kevin married Terry, and he was evil. Maybe he was a killer or something, and she found out. I remember him trying to he was chasing her and trying to push her off a cliff. It was like
Kevin?
86, 87. No. It was other. There was another Terry, and there was another.
Your brain is a thing of beauty and wonder. That you can recall not just the names of these random characters, but who portrayed them. I'm like, I don't remember the 70s in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you. My subscription to Soap Opera Digest all those years.
There you go. Wow.
But what else? I'm trying to think what else in the 80s. But those were the big things. And yes, and again, I was never a big Luke fan. So anything Luke, Holly, I liked Robert.
Holly. Ugh.
The whole Robert. And of course, the Asian Quarter story.
Oh, that was good, wasn't it?
That was mid-80s.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
And that's where we were hoping. That's where we were hoping that Selena would bring that back in and tie that back in, and that would make a lot more sense.
Right. And they've talked about it. So
they don't know what to do with Selena. They're trying to prop up Sidwell, which is good. I like him. Yeah. He's going to be a good bad guy. But Selena adds a different flavor to things, and I don't want them to forget her. Maybe she's the one who blew up Sonny's apartment. Yeah.
So what about the 90s? What do you remember from the 90s?
The 90s, I was doing, when were my children? In 90s, I was not watching soaps at all. I was raising children. And also in the 80s as well. And I will say this about the 80s. 80s is when I did my pregnancies.
Right.
I'm old. And when I was pregnant with my first child, I switched over to Guiding Light.
Oh. And
I watched Guiding Light for about 3 years. And then I flipped back to ABC and I got into One Life to Live. That's about the time I kind of got into what late 80s is when I started watching. But I was not a dedicated watcher. Well, there was a time during the 80s where my then husband and I would record it and we'd watch it together. And then he woke up one day and decided that this was something we shouldn't be doing. I'm like, why? It's not good. Whatever. He had some reason. And so then there was that time away. And then I came back to it in about 2010, 29, around there.
The 90s, I was living my life. So I was in and out. But I remember when Claire Labine came from Ryan Soap and she humanized everything. She's responsible for BJ's heart transplant. She's responsible for Stone getting AIDS. All those big stories in the 90s that had a lot of heart were her. And she made that show very realistic. And then that was also the rise of Sonny, but she wasn't making him the whatever he is today.
No, he was much more incidental back then, wasn't he?
Yeah, he owned the nightclub. He was just a skeezy character who would pop up. And then of course, when Jason had the accident, took advantage of that. So she's responsible for all that. I think she was with the show from like 94 to 96 or 97. That's what I remembered. I sort of was in and out of it in the 2000s because again, it was the foursome of Sunny, Carly, Jason, and Sam. So I just was
Oh,
like,
yeah, I remember those days. And sometimes they were good and sometimes they weren't. No,
No.
I was thinking about it last night as I was snarking, in that I watch Beyond the Gates first, and then I pre-schedule those snarks. And I realized last night I was doing it, I said, I don't have the history with this show, so I can't quite touch the snarking to the degree that I can with General Hospital. You know, obviously, I mean, when you do something for 12 years, you kind of get past the learning curve, right?
automatic, yeah.
So I can snark General Hospital pretty clearly. And also I can watch General Hospital and I remember what situations, you know, I may not remember the exact dialogue, and I do miss things, obviously, as people have pointed out. But not like Beyond the Gates, where I identified a character completely wrong in my snark this morning. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's much easier for me to talk about General Hospital because of the history. Yeah.
I've not watched Beyond the Gates yet. I've not snarked it. So yeah. So even just reading, I stopped reading the snarks because it's like, well, I'm not watching it.
You're
so
not, you have no context. Yeah.
I'm not even getting what's being written. And I just, like when I start watching it, I'll go back and catch up. But yeah, 2000s for me was just a blur. I tuned in, I tuned out. If I read something was coming up in soap opera, I was that kind of a viewer.
Yeah.
Okay. This episode's going to be when so and so. Then I'd watch it, but I was not regularly watching it, even though I was still regularly watching All My Children, One Life to Live at that point. I just stopped. And again, I didn't come back, and many of the Snarkies know this, until Ron's first episode, which was my birthday, February 20th, 2012. Yep. And that first episode he was responsible for. Now, and it was like learning a new show because there were all these characters on there. I think that crazy woman Lisa was on, that was stalking Patrick.
Lisa Niles. Oh God,
there was the psychiatrist, Dr. Things happened very quickly, and I think that was the episode where, because he fixed it, Robin blew up in the explosion. That was Ron's first episode, and he did it in a way that she's not dead. I think prior to that, they weren't going to actually kill her off. Since that day, I have watched every day, every episode, every second. May not have always paid attention, but I watched it.
And you might have binged 12 episodes in a row, but you're not telling anyone.
Yeah. And I've said this before, and I'll say this now. Now that General Hospital is watchable again, it's much easier to binge it. So like I'll binge this week, probably over the weekend. I just finished binging Days because I was out of town. It's easy to binge, and especially this last week. And this happens with every fired head writer. The show gets really good on their way out because it's like they know like their time's up. Like, yeah, might as well write it. And they started a murder mystery. So
what's next for Ron Carlivati?
He's a breakdown writer on Beyond the Gates. He's writing for Beyond the Gates.
Well, that makes me happy.
Yeah, he's been with them since last fall.
Great. Yeah. That makes me happy.
Yep.
All righty. Well, we're coming to the end of our time. Oh, I'm going to do a quick character of the week. David can't because he hasn't seen this week, but my character of the week is Emma. Emma showed up this week. Emma has entered the chat, people, and we're getting a little bit more backstory on her. She's interwoven with the ADA Justine Turner. We learned her name yesterday. That was exciting to have Emma. And text messages from Wicked Stepmother. She too is a little bit behind and doesn't have anything for us to say, but she said she enjoyed the anniversary. Go, David.
I'll pick Emma without seeing it. I'll pick Emma as the character of the week because I just watched last Friday when she chained herself to the door. So I'll go with her. This week's soap recommendation on newsstands now, if you have not seen it, the 50 greatest soaps, 50 greatest couples. And of course, Liaison.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yes. This is just saw it at Barnes and Noble. I picked this up about a month ago, but it's currently on newsstands. It's one of those $14.99 magazines because it's glossy.
Glossy. Yeah. Soap Opera Digest isn't publishing every month, though, right? Just these special things?
No, and this is the annoying thing. They don't advertise that they stopped weekly publication and they're just basically web a website, but it's not a go-to website unless it pops up. I get emails for some reason. I guess because I was a subscriber, I get emails saying, this is happening or the breaking news. Usually they're good about breaking news. They said we'll probably do 4 publications a year. And
At $14.95.
at $14.99, yeah. I don't get the notifications for that. So it really is just a random, I'm at Barnes & Noble or any other newsstand and, there's a special Soap Opera Digest issue out. Now this says...
Oh, is that Trina and Spencer up at the top?
Yes. Yes,
Oh.
they're there. And then
would
Sharon
think.
and Nick from Y&R. And what else? Oh, they, of course, Mark and Kelly from All My Children, Young and Restless, and Days. So this is like every soap's 50
Okay.
greatest couples.
Very cool.
Should I spoiler alert and say who's number 1?
Is it Luke and Laura?
Yeah, of course it's Luke and Laura.
Who aren't even
Who
on the
else?
cover? Who aren't even
Yeah.
on the cover?
Who else? But they're nice magazines. They're good keepsakes. I like getting these magazines. I've got a bunch of them from the 70s and 80s. Anyway, pick it up if you see it.
Wonderful. All right, everybody, we're done for the week. We've recapped all the things. It is a blooper fiesta today on General Hospital Snarkcast.
It's the bandage.
My non-Todd, if it went this way, I'd be Todd Manning,
Right.
but it goes this way, so it's just Leanne.
Yeah.
All
Anyway,
right, guys.
thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Like, follow, tell your friends. We're here every week. Till next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.